G'day, it's Noisy Andrew. And about 3-4 weeks ago, something happened that really annoyed me. And I just remembered I'm still annoyed. So let me tell you about it. I don't know about your country, but in my country, there's, let's call them the powers that be, really want us to hate China. And this is interesting because, we live fairly well in Australia. It's a nice place to live. And a large part of that is because of our trade with China. So why the fuck would we want to spread ideas that they're wanting to invade us? I thought about this when I was listening to one of my favourite news podcasts, The Iron Fist and the Velvet Glove, and they talked about a poll that had been conducted worldwide by some organisation, Pew Research I think, but I could be wrong, and they'd asked the Taiwanese, do you think China will invade you at some point, or tomorrow, or not at all? And 5% of Taiwanese people thought that a Chinese invasion was imminent. When the same question was asked of an Australian, do you think China would invade Australia? 9% of us thought it was imminent. What the fuck, Australia? Get your shit together. Now, whenever I hear something like this, I'm reminded of an episode of the podcast, of The Iron Fist and the Velvet Glove, where they actually dug in to something that resonates with people about my age or a bit older that happened in China, and that was Tiananmen Square. Now, the host of the podcast is happy to agree that something happened, but he thinks we've been covered with a fair bit of propaganda over that. So while the podcast was on the summer break, he did some research and he read articles only from Western sources to try and dig a little deeper into what actually happened in Tiananmen Square. Now, Australians are influenced heavily by our Prime Minister at the time crying on TV, talking about tanks, bulldozers, flamethrowers, and burning piles of bodies. I actually remember this. I'm old enough. Anyway, turns out that never happened at all. Anyway, whenever I hear some anti-Chinese sentiment in Australia, totally unwarranted, I share a link to that podcast, which I did a few weeks ago. And Instagram removed my post because of nudity and sexual content. This confused me. I had been very careful to use good language, to make no accusations in the post's text, and I did not understand how that could be construed as nudity or sexual content. I appealed to them, obviously. I think you got this wrong. And they were like, nah, sorry. We don't want you saying anything positive about China or that what happened in China may have been reported in a propagandist way to Western eyes and ears. Interestingly, I made the same post on Blue Sky. They did not remove the post, but they blurred the image, which was a hint to me what the issue was with Instagram. Because in the thumbnail of the image, which is very small, and I did not notice this when I linked to the podcast episode, the image pops up with the link, obviously. There are 2 or 3 Chinese soldiers who have burnt bodies hanging from ropes. Chinese soldiers, I might add. Because some shit did go down that night, or over those days, but it didn't actually happen in Tiananmen Square, interestingly. And it's interesting that the bodies hanging up are bodies of soldiers. So I don't know how much longer I'll be on Instagram because I feel like I'm being censored. There's nothing sexual about my post wanting to share this. Maybe just the corporate powers that be that control us Stalin supposedly controlled the Soviets. Don't like us talking about stuff don't like us talking about stuff that's not on their agenda. Anyway, I will continue to be on Blue Sky because I realise that the image probably was offensive. I didn't, like, when I put the link up, it automatically inserted its thumbnail, and I didn't pay it any attention. So I get that a badly burnt body that probably doesn't have too many clothes left on it is confronting, and I get that why you would remove that. But to accuse it of nudity and sexual content, that's rubbish. So it's possible that you won't see Party Meeple on Instagram anymore, because I think they're trying to shape news narrative to their own extent. We know they're already, like, filtering a lot of stuff about what's happening in Ukraine and Gaza, because there are two sides to both of those stories, but we're only being pushed on one of them. Anyway, thank you for listening. Go to the Party Meeple channel. Buy my games. Blah, 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 blah.